Okay, hello, and welcome to my glutes workshop. So today what I wanted to do is just go through the glutes and start to understand what the function is, what they do, signs that they might not be as functional as they should be, and what you can do to strengthen them and get them functioning better. Okay, so I see a lot of people who, generally through posture and years of poor habits, are getting back pain and they're not utilizing their glutes properly. So that's kind of the reason I just wanted to give a bit more detail, because if you're in my classes, one of the purposes of the class is to strengthen your glutes. All the exercises are based around strengthening your core muscles and your glutes. And often when I see people on a one-to-one basis, they will kind of say, oh, I can't get my glutes to engage. And so it's really important that you start to understand the link between your glutes and kind of back pain. Of course, there are lots of things that can cause back pain. So just to let you know that it's not necessarily your glutes. And if you do have back pain, then please go and see your doctor or a specialist, a physio, to identify if that is the issue. So today is really more informational to give you an understanding of your glutes and what you can do to strengthen them. Okay. So first, let's understand why the glutes are so important and where they are. So I'm just going to figure out how I share my screen, and we've got a nice picture for you here of the glutes. Maybe make it a bit bigger. Anyway, we can see them there. Carry on. So you can see here we've got our glutes, medius, maximus, minimus, and then our other hip muscles on this slide. And the glutes are the most powerful muscle in our body. So if we're not using them properly, then that is going to cause us some problems. And today I'm mainly focusing on the three, the glute medius, glute maximus, glute minimus. They're the three ones that I'm going to focus on today. And you can see they are the biggest glute muscles, the biggest muscles across your bottom. And they have a pivotal role in maintaining stability, balance, and proper movement patterns. So if you've got any instability through your pelvis, then strengthening your glutes is really going to help to ease that movement, get nice, stable, strong glutes. So they also contribute to our daily activities, so all functional, from walking. You know, people often laugh when they come into a one-to-one with me. I will teach them how to breathe, and I will teach them how to walk, things that you thought you were doing perfectly fine, but actually there we go. You could be doing it better. So why do people struggle with engaging their glutes? So mainly it's because of a sedentary lifestyle. So again, today we're not talking about any traumatic injury that's caused any back pain. This is generally what happens over many years of sitting. Only in the last like 10, 20 years have we really sat as much as we sit today. Before that, we were moving a lot more, we were walking. But these days, most people drive their kids to school, they drive to the shops, they drive to work, they sit at a desk all day, come home, sit all evening. And then just putting your body in that position of sitting, we haven't adapted to it. And so because of that, over time, your glutes become inactive and they don't function. So all of our muscles work because of a signal from your brain. Your brain says, you know, I want to pick that cup up. I'm going to engage the muscles down the arm to the hand to pick the cup up. If you lose that connection, the neural connection, your brain will make other connections to make movements. So you'll still be able to move, but you're just not necessarily using these big, meaty, strong muscles that you should be when you do certain activities. So prolonged sitting weakens the glutes and causes them to become inactive and underutilized, and there is a condition called glute amnesia or dead butt syndrome. So there you go. If your glutes aren't functioning, you can't feel the connection with them, it is possible that you've got dead butt. And what happens if we can't engage our glutes, if we don't engage our glutes, is that it will cause us musculoskeletal issues. So you might start to feel lower back pain or hip pain. You might get pain below the issue, so your knees down to your feet. All of this could be because of dysfunctional glute muscles. And because what you're doing really is your body's having to compensate. If you're not using those big, strong muscles, then you'll be using other muscles and stressing and straining other areas of your body. So, for example, if you haven't got the stability in your pelvis because those muscles are weak, your back might be moving more, which will cause more wear and tear in your back muscles. Your knee is going to have more movement in it because the hips aren't stable. So it's more movement in the knee and it isn't designed to take that much stress. And so you might cause more wear and tear in the knee or get injuries, strains, sprains in the knee, in the back, all because your glutes aren't taking on the work that they should be. So what we want to do is strengthen our glutes so that our pelvis is nice and strong and stable, our lower back is supported, and our movements are functional, and we're moving properly with that good brain engagement. The consequences, just going through quickly, I'll just share a different picture now of walking. So this is just going to show the movement. So here we go. So you can see like a normal hips. When you walk, you will get a slight turn to the side because your weight is shifting slightly from side to side, but you don't want to be getting a really big kind of like the catwalk walk where the hips kind of sway from side to side. That is instability in your pelvis. And if you're getting that much movement, it's because the muscles aren't strong enough to support your pelvis. And then that you see on the picture on the right hand side, the hips dropping with the red pelvis. You can also see the knee turns inward and the foot flattens. The foot flattens, the knee goes inwards because you're getting that movement from the pelvis down. Okay, so that is the instability in the pelvis that will be affecting your balance and all of your movement patterns. And then you can see as well, you'll see that there's more movement in the back as you're going at this angle. The back is getting more movement through the muscles in the lower back and the hips. So you'll be experiencing potential pain and strain in your back, as well as down your knee. And if you start to take up a new activity like walking, jogging, running, cycling, anything really that is, that might be when you notice or start to experience pain. And all that is that in the kind of gentle, low impact world that you've been living, you've kind of been okay. Then the minute that you start to increase the movement in your body, the stress, the impact, or add weight to it, you might experience pain. And that is because you've gone past your window of tolerance. Your body can't tolerate it anymore, and because of this instability. Okay, so first, we've kind of looked at the reasons why generally sitting, and we've looked at why it's bad to not have strong glutes, mainly the instability that causes lots of problems and pain. And so what can we do about it? This is the most important bit. How can we get our glutes to function optimally? And the key to this is in targeted exercise and conscious movement. So with all of this, it is really about awareness. So with any exercise you do, with any classes you go to, the instructor can be saying, but if it doesn't come in and you don't do it, I can't make you engage your glutes. Only you can engage your glutes. And only you can be aware if they're not engaging. So all the exercises that you do, or most of the exercises, you could probably do them without consciousness, without being aware of what you're doing, about being aware of what muscles are activating. So it really is about being aware of what you're doing. And I'll often say in my classes that the movement doesn't have to be a big movement. It can be a really small movement, but you are activating that conscious connection between your brain and your glutes to make sure they're firing as you move. And that is where the start comes from. So the start of the movement, if you've got weak glutes and they are not working, you need to fire up, consciously activate them, and then move. You could probably do the movement without engaging your glutes, but that is not going to solve the problem of strengthening your glutes. So the first thing is always engage glutes and then move. And again, the movement might only be really small to start with. And over time, as those nervous system patterns strengthen, you'll be able to do bigger movements. So it's being aware of when are your glutes firing, when are they relaxing, and can you consciously get them to engage more. And what it might be is, like, if you come to a class, I use the whole core, so abdominal, pelvic floor, and glutes, and you might just want to focus on one of those muscle groups to start with. Sometimes, especially if you've just started in a class, to get you to tighten through all of your core muscles and move and breathe, it can be a lot of instruction. And so the invitation is that you don't have to do it all. I mean, you have to breathe and have to move a little bit, but the engagement doesn't have to be all of your core muscles. So if you've got a particular weak area, so for example, today we're talking about the glutes. If your glutes are your weak area, just focus on getting them to engage. Breathe, engage, and move. Okay, and we need the breath to oxygenate the muscle tissue. So I don't want you to hold your breath and pass out. So breathe, engage, and move. So that's the conscious movement. And things like the exercises we're talking about: squats, lunges, hip thrusts, glute bridges. And doing these every single day will help to activate and strengthen your glute muscles and help them to regain their functionality again. And often when you've got a focus of an area that you want to target, it is good to do exercise every day, and even just a minute in the morning, a minute in the evening, every single day. It doesn't have to be loads of things, but just getting that conscious awareness, it will come a lot quicker the more time you spend on it. So if you just wait once a week for a class, you might find that the progress is slower. So if you can do something every single day, get up and do 10 squats, fire up that connection with your glutes, you might find that through the day then you are more aware of when you're using them. So I will go through the exercises in more detail in a moment, and I'll just go through the other things that you can do while I'm sat here before I stand up. So it's becoming more aware of your movement patterns. So avoiding too much sitting. So be aware, if you've just gone on a long car journey to visit somebody and you get there, don't then sit down when you get there. Maybe just be aware, I've been sat for a long time, I'm just going to stand up for half an hour before I sit down again. Maybe be aware, if you can get a standing desk, can you spend a portion of your day stood? Maybe one meeting a day, start with, you're going to stand for or walk for. If it's camera off, maybe you could, do a couple of squats or walk around the room during a meeting while you're listening in. So just making small adjustments like that can make a big difference to our movement patterns. And then being aware about engaging your glutes while you're doing these daily activities. So while you're waiting in line at the supermarket, you might just squeeze your bottom and release, squeeze and release. Maybe when you're sat in your car at traffic lights, if there's a red light, you're going to do a couple of glute engagements. And it's not about that's not necessarily going to really strengthen them, but it is really about activating your brain that they are there so that your brain knows that they can use them. Okay, so to start with, especially if you're finding it difficult to engage your glutes, getting this connection with your glutes is really important. So just noticing and just doing those kind of squeeze and release, your brain knows that your glutes are there. And again, I'll just say that it is really important not to do this squeeze, 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 squeeze. and hold tight for the whole day. I'm not going to say squeeze your butt and then walk, squeeze completely all the time. With all of the muscles in our body, it is really important to get the shortening, the activation, and also the relaxation, the lengthening. So if I say it to like your bicep in your upper arm, we need to be able to bend and straighten our arm to have the muscle to be functional. So if I tighten this muscle, tighten, it doesn't necessarily mean strong. You can have a tight muscle that is not functional. Because if I can't straighten my arm because my bicep is so strong or tight, that's not going to do me any good. So we need to exercise all of our muscles through the full length. Straighten, extend fully, and then engage. So we need to engage our glutes and relax. And a lot of people do have, I actually had a problem of holding tension in my pelvis and holding my glutes really tight and having to learn when they're engaging and to relax them. So if you are sitting and you're not using them, they shouldn't be really fired up and engaged. They should be able to relax. So when you're doing your exercises, part of this is the engagement, but it's the relaxation as well. It's not stand in your shopping line and squeeze. It's squeeze and release. Get the shorten of the muscle, get the release and lengthen of the muscle. So work that muscle through the full length of it, full range of movement of it. Yeah, and so then, and walking is another one. I'll go through walking in a second when we stand, when I stand up, because walking's a really, really important one that you need to just start to be aware of. Okay, so I think that's everything that I've had written down that I wanted to talk to you about. So we'll go through some exercises now. Okay, so I'm going to start with some squats. So I'll let's turn you around and we'll stop my screen share so that you can see me. Okay, so when we squat, it can be helpful to start squatting having a chair or a stool so that you can be aware of your positioning. So you don't have to, but I'll just bring my... And what we're going to do is standing tall, feet hip distance apart, just do some squats up and down. So your hips hinge back and then you push into your heels and rise up. And as I say, you may want to sit into a chair. So you sit down into a chair. So from this position where your feet are hip distance apart, knees are over your ankles, push in, engage your glutes, come up. So you feel that, you see my pelvis is hinging up and down. My hips are going back. So what you don't want to be doing is this bending where your knees come forward, knees forward back. That's not going to engage your glutes at all. You need this position where your hips go back and then push into your heels and rise up. You squat back, push into your heels and rise up. So going into a chair can be good because you can sit down, check your alignment, make sure your knees are over your heels, ankles, push, and you'll feel those glutes engage as you come up and then back down. Push, engage, come up. And then you can relax at the top, bend down, push into your heels and come up. So that's your squats. And you can do them in a chair or you can just do up and down. And again, it can be a really small movement and engage up, down and engage up, hinging back and engage up. So none of this straight back, up and down, even straight back, forward and back. You're not moving your hips forward and backwards, although that is a bit like a hip thrust that we'll go into in a minute. So lunges, another one really good for all of the muscles in your pelvis. Take a step forward, come onto the ball of your back foot, and then bend down, push up, bend down, push up. So with your lunge, you might want to hold on to a chair if you're a bit wobbly. You can do something to help to stabilize you. And the movement can be really small, a couple of inches down, push into your heel, push into the ball of your foot, rise up. So activating as you rise up. Bend, engage and rise. Bend, engage and rise. And then you can change onto the other side. Both knees bending, engage and rise. And your front knee's not coming over your ankle, so you're not coming forward, lunging into the front leg. You're coming down and up. And again, the movement can be really small. Hip thrusts is something that's very similar to a bridge that I'll show you in a second. But a hip thrust is basically like if I was to bring my hands onto the chair here and dip my hips down, then push my hips up. So down, push up and up. So maybe if you're sat at a desk all day, you could maybe stop and do a couple of these, and you're squeezing your bottom, feeling that push up. So your glutes engage as you push up. You're lengthening into your hips. That's a nice kind of exercise you could do. You probably could do it even kind of standing, bend your knees, push up and engage, down, push up and engage. Kind of like a squat, kind of like a bridge. And then we'll come down, a bridge. Bridge is a great exercise for engaging your glutes. Really nice, gentle exercise and great for your back. Feet hip distance apart. Engage your glutes, push your hips up and down. And very often in the class, I will encourage you to roll through your spine as you come up and down. And it's not necessarily, that's because of getting more flexibility and mobility into your back. If you're just trying to strengthen your glutes, you don't really need to worry about that so much. So you maybe just do a couple, squeeze your bottom up and down. So the glutes are the most important thing, pushing up and down. So you might keep a flat back as you do it. You might experiment with rolling into your back. But for the purpose of this, the purpose is strengthening your glutes. So the most important thing is that you're squeezing your bottom muscles, not that you're rolling into your spine. So as I say, normally when I teach this in a class, I will teach the roll through your back, because I'm encouraging that flexibility and that movement in your spine and the other areas of your back. But if it's just glute engagement, then you can just go straight up, straight down with your hips with a flat back. And so again, it's moving with engagement in your muscles. So those exercises, I think that's all of them. Do them every day. Yeah, squats, lunges, hip thrusts, glute bridges. So it won't take long. You could just do 10 of each. That'll probably take you less than 2 minutes. 10 squats, 10 lunges, 10 bridges, and then some hip thrusts if you want to throw them in as well. And the next thing I wanted to go over was walking, because this is something that is really important. If you're walking and you have dead butt syndrome, so your glutes are not engaging, then you'll be overusing your hip flexors. And I got this a lot during COVID, when people started walking a lot more than they had done before, and they suddenly had all these hip and back issues. And what it was is that they weren't engaging their glutes properly, so their hip flexors were being overused. And your hip flexors are this really long, slim muscle, and your glutes are these big, meaty muscles. So where we can, we want to re-educate to not be overusing our hips all the time, because our hip flexors get short when we sit all day. So they're short, and then we're using them, overusing them all the time if we're using them to walk. So we want to get your glutes to be taking the strain. So when you walk, notice where the pressure is in your feet, and notice if you're falling forward. So a lot of people do this fall forward. They swing the knee forward. So they swing here, hips shorten, and then they fall, swing and fall. And the glutes don't even work at all. And they're almost like your weight of balance is forward, and you're just falling forward with the knee pulling you, pulling you, pulling you, pulling you. So what you want to try and do is push off the heel, or push off the ball of your back foot. So if you take a step forward, keep your weight in the back leg as long as you can. Come up onto the ball of your foot, feel your glutes fire, and pull that leg forward. Push off the back leg and come forward. Push off the back leg and come forward. So you're keeping your weight back for longer. Instead of forward, 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 you are pushing and pushing, and I'm over exaggerating if it looks a bit silly, pushing and pushing. So you're coming into the ball of your back foot, pushing off, which is going to engage your glutes, and then forward, but my weight's not in this foot yet because it's still in the back foot. Push, engage your glutes. My weight transfers to this leg, stays in this leg until this leg leaves the floor. So I'm keeping my weight in that back leg for longer, keeping my weight back to engage the glutes. And you can squeeze. So when you go for a walk, take a few moments to be aware of where your weight is and what you're engaging, and think glutes, glutes, glutes. Keep your weight back and engage your glutes. So that's how you can start to engage your glutes a bit more when you're walking, so that you're not doing this falling forward thing that we see, yeah, in this picture, in this one. So that's coming forward, and then obviously is the this hip swaying from side to side, this catwalk walking. You don't want to be doing that either. I'll just stop that first so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so your hips should not be side to side as you walk. Just think of the movement. So if you notice you're doing that, try and keep your hips more still. There's a slight shift from side to side, but it's not a big shift hip up, because that's bringing all this movement up into your back, all this movement down into your knees. So try and keep this stability. Your hip muscles are really important for balance. So if you notice you're bad at balance, then tightening up your glutes could be really beneficial. And I'll just share quickly the signs. If you can see this one, a bit small. Signs you have weak glutes. So if you can't do a single leg bridge effectively, so laying on your back, one foot on the floor, lifting up, if that's quite difficult for you, there's a lot of instability there. It could be due to a weakness in your glutes. But it's hard to maintain balance when you're lunging. As I said, glutes are really important. All those hip muscles, really important for balance. So if you struggle with your balance, definitely start by strengthening your glutes. Pelvis tilts forward. So this leads into like posture, which is really important. And I was going to address it today, but I decided that there's not time. So I might do another one on posture, because this anterior pelvic tilt is another really, really common cause of weak glutes. If you find that you really have this sway forward where your hips come forward, women often have it from having a baby. They never really recover afterwards. With the weight comes forward, the hips come forward, and they haven't got their hips over their heels, and their glutes aren't firing because of their posture. So I'll do another thing on that. But even if you have got a anterior pelvic tilt, starting to strengthen your glutes will help that, because we're rebalancing the muscles and getting the strength in your glutes, getting the brain awareness of your glutes. You will be able to start using them more, which will take some of the pressure off and start to improve your posture. So one of the ways to improve an anterior pelvic tilt is to start strengthening your glutes with these exercises and these techniques I've given you today. And then your glutes are never sore is the last one. So if you the glutes never sore, or as I say, if you find that when you come to a class, or when I say to you, engage your glutes when you do this, because like a clam, it's another one. Lie on your side, knees bent, lay flat, but I'm just going to lay up here so I can see you. And then open and close this top knee. And if you do that, so I can relax my glutes now, and I'm doing it, and I'm following the instructions. So I always say don't rock back, so keep your hips forward. So I can do that now without engaging my glutes at all. They're completely relaxed. If I wobble them, they're wobbly. Or I can squeeze my bottom and lift my knee, relax, squeeze and lift, and I'm getting a really good glute engagement. So there's a different, you can do the exercises without using the muscles. So if your brain isn't using these, really think about it. Is it engaged? Can I dig my fingers into it and feel that it's hardening, that it's firming underneath my fingertips? You want that before you lift a clown. Make sure you can feel it and then lift, because it's really, you can do it without engaging. Okay, so if they're never sore, so if you've never felt your glutes, if you've never done an exercise session where you felt your glutes have been fatigued, then the potential is that you are not engaging them and you haven't got a functional relationship with them, because that's all this is all about, is about getting a functional relationship with your muscles. So your back pain could be caused by all sorts of different circumstances. It could be anything, but very, very often these days I see people with glutes that are not working properly. And very often it is because of how we live our lives. So it's not our fault. Our body just hasn't adapted to the fact that in the last 10 years, we sit a lot and we don't move as much. Just general movement is not as, we just don't do it as much because life is so easy. We have cars, our time is precious. So it's not anybody's fault per se. It's just that our body gets into these poor movement patterns because our brain doesn't care what muscles it uses. It just wants to get the job done. It doesn't care whether it's going to cause you pain because it's not thinking about that. The brain is just thinking, I need to do this. So as I say, you can do all these exercises without engaging your glutes at all if your brain doesn't know to fire them. So you need to get a good relationship with your glutes. You need to know where they are. You need to know whether they're working or not. And doing these exercises, thinking about breathe, engage, move. Breathe, engage, move. So you get the engagement of the muscle and then you move. Squeeze your glutes and then move. So it is a workout for the brain. And then over time, the muscles will strengthen. This will improve your posture. This will improve your pain. This will improve, everything. So your pelvis will become more stable. Your back will have less movement in it because your core muscles are stronger. They're supporting you better. The alignment down your legs will be better because your glutes are strong and supporting you. So everything you can do to get your glutes to be functioning properly, to be relaxing as well when they need to relax. So when you're sat in your chair, they don't need to be engaged, they can relax. But then when you get it to move, when you walk, when you exercise, you feel that engagement and you're aware of them working functionally. And then over time, it takes time to strengthen muscles and to strengthen neural pathways. So over time, over weeks, over months, your body will learn to use these muscles more. So it's like a child learning to eat with a knife and fork. Imagine you put your fork in your left hand and started trying to eat. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird because you haven't got the pathways to use the left hand to eat. It's clunky. But if you did that every single day for 3 months, you wouldn't know any different. It would become normal. It would feel normal because the neural pathways would have been established. The muscles will activate in that pattern and it just becomes the new pattern. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to create new patterns with proper functional movement. And by engaging your glutes in functional ways, so not tight, and not never engaging at all, engaging when you need them, releasing when you don't need them. Over time, when you strengthen those the muscle to brain pathways, you will get a far better relationship with your glutes. So start with the exercises, do them as often as you can. Initially it's that engage and relax, engage and relax, engage and relax. So sit in the shopping line, sat at your chair, sat in the car at the traffic lights, just start to be aware of them. Notice if they start to engage more frequently. And then over time, you won't need to do those things as much. The walking will become a new habit. You will naturally engage your glutes as you walk. But to start with, you might just need to start thinking about it a little bit more. If you have any questions on anything that I've said today, please let me know. And I will endeavour to put a workout up with those glute exercises just in case you want a bit more guidance or maybe a slightly longer thing that you can follow at home. But glutes are really important, really important part of your core. So work hard, get them to engage, and let me know if you need any assistance with that. Thank you for joining.